Paranormal Pete, and I'm on a journey to seek answers to the questions that have crossed all of our minds. What happens to us when we die? Is there an afterlife? I'm a regular guy who discovered the gift of psychic mediumship in my 30s. My passion for history and the unknown have put me right here, right now. My mantra for anything paranormal is, we don't know much and anything is possible. Join me as we find our way through the stories, evidence, and experiences of the paranormal and beyond in search of answers, even if that leads to more questions. Are you with me? Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea. We're on WLTK-DB.com, and I'm so stoked tonight. It's episode 100 for this show. I can't believe it. I never thought I'd make it past 10 episodes, and with so much support in the community paranormal research and all the guests in the field of cryptid research and UFOs, everybody who supported the show. I can't believe I made it here, but thank you all so very much. And for everybody who comments every week, downloads the show and listens or watches later, to each and every one of you, thank you. Also, heartfelt thanks to every single guest I've had on this show. Can't get everybody on to celebrate for the 100th, but I've got such an amazing cast of people on tonight. We'll be talking to them here shortly. Feel free to comment wherever you're watching, streaming from, if it's YouTube, Facebook, or wherever else. Just jump in the comment bar. We'll see it. We've got some people commenting already. We'll give some shout outs. Jody Evans, she was waiting with the countdown earlier. Thanks, Jody. And Jerry, hey, thanks for watching. And Dave, aka Pops, thanks for watching too. Good friend of the show here, Katie Brown. Congratulations on the 100th show. Thanks, Jody. Congrats. Thank you, guys. Wow. And Dee Dee, congrats on number 100. Thank you. And Jerry saying congrats as well. Well, I couldn't do this without the station owner and host of Haunted Voices, Todd Bates, who's always on the ones and twos running this whole ship. He's built quite an amazing station here. Started with 4 shows. Now there's over 25 shows, ranging from true crime to metaphysical to self-help to the paranormal. So there's lots of great content every day. If you go to the website, also be sure to sync your calendar with the station calendar so that you don't miss any of the shows. You know what's coming up each week. It's all right there on the calendar. So be sure to check that out on the website. And real quick, I'll just mention Go Kraken. Got a Kraken shirt on. They're in the playoffs tonight. Go Kraken for all the Kraken fans out there. But no, special thanks to the band for letting me always play the music on here. If you like the show intro, that's my band, Steady Rock Cosmonaut. And I'm very excited tonight. We're going to debut a new song from the band. It's called Old Gods. So hope you all enjoy that. Excited to get that playing. So mention this is episode 100. Well, episode 101 is coming up next week. And I've got a good friend of the show and a good friend of mine, Silver Moon Medicine, coming on. We're going to have a blast. She did a really interesting presentation at the Oregon Ghost Conference that kind of worked well with mine, kind of my presentation. So we're going to be talking about that. And then coming up in May, I've got awesome guests like Kay McBean Peden coming on the show in May. And then I've got Jennifer Page coming on as well, who hosts I Talk to Ghost. So I got some great stuff coming up. I also have an event on May 20th I'm taking part in. It's to benefit Mission 22, which is a nonprofit that helps with veterans and mental health. And so it's called Mission 22. And it's through my friend Debbie Romero. So if you go to transcendwithdebbie.com, you can get entrance to that event. There's over 20 mediums. They're going to be on there from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in short blocks, raising money for Mission 22. And so I will be on there at 1:45 p.m. Doing readings. So really looking forward to that. It's such a great cause, and so I hope you'll support it. If you can't make it, maybe you'll still support it as well. But let's get into it tonight. Again, episode 100. So we're doing a 2-hour special tonight. So I'm going to have one round of guests for the first hour, and then another round of guests for the second hour. And I just can't get everybody on in this one small screen as I would want to. But the people coming on tonight are great friends of the show, and people who've had an impact on me in my paranormal journey as well. So I'm excited to bring them all up. Let's bring them in, and we'll introduce them as they come on here. Here we go. All right. We got Jason Hassler with Big River Paranormal, the Oregon chapter. William, we'll say hi to you in the second hour. But William with Paranormal Insights. Let's see here. Okay. We got Mary Bethune from Olympic Peninsula Paranormal Society. Probably somebody I've done the most investigations with, probably. Always work very well together. We got Mr. Casey Goodwin with Oregon Paranormal. Hey, Casey.
What's up, dude?
And we got Mr. Michael White, one of the best skeptics I know.
I don't believe you.
Oh, boy.
Exactly. Good friend of the show. He was a producer for the show for a time, and maybe once again in the future, we'll see. But a good friend, Michael Beers, welcome to the show.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks for coming on. And also another good friend of the show, and someone that I always enjoy hearing what he's got to say about the paranormal, Mr. Ben Robinson, coming on. What's up, Ben?
Hey,
and
how's it going?
we may talk Bigfoot a little bit tonight too. I know some of us could maybe talk about that. And then we've also got station owner Todd Bates here on the line, WLTK-DB.
Hey, Todd.
Todd, thanks for running all this. Thanks for all that you've done to give a platform for not only me, but all the other shows as well. It's kind of been a crazy ride doing this. I don't know, but thanks for all you do. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, you're an amazing individual, Pete. To watch you grow all these years. Oh, I'm going to throw it at you. This is 100. I have seen so many hosts come and go. So many. You stuck with it. You stuck in there. You barely missed a show. It's amazing. That's something to be proud of. You should be very proud of yourself.
Thanks, man. Yeah, well, like I said, I didn't, think I'd go very far with it, but I think the coolest part about this, and you guys are all included in this. I think what's cool about doing a show, which I'm always nervous. I get nervous before every show still, that pre-show jitters, but it's the fact that I get to learn something new every week and hear a different perspective, or maybe a validating perspective, to me. But it's so cool to learn something every week. And I think I know all of you support people always learning in whatever field you're researching. But in the paranormal, I know that all of you, are about never stop learning, keep asking questions and stuff. And so I think that's been a driving force to keep this going for me, is because I get to learn something new every week, pretty much. Any thoughts? I hope you guys get to learn stuff too.
I'm just honored to be around so many amazing people right now. I mean, I feel very honored. That's great group of people.
It's going to be hard for all of us to hold our heads up after this show.
I know. It's just, my neck's already sore. Yeah.
Hey, Casey, I have to tell you that you like win the cool factor here. The office, you're all casual with your arm out there. Just looks great.
I didn't want to sit in a computer chair because, that's what I do all day for a living. So I figured I'd turn the computer screen around and sit on the couch for a change.
Good call.
Yeah.
Enjoy a nice cup of tea.
Awesome.
All you need is like a whiskey tumbler and a cigar.
Well, I've got the flask over there.
King jacket.
See how this 100 celebration goes. It might get a little wild.
Here we go.
Missing
Let's
that Will Ferrell meatloaf smoking jacket.
There you go.
That would be epic. Well, let's go around the horn here. So I introduced Todd Bates. He's station owner here, host of Haunted Voices. We introduced everybody. Jason, tell us about your team and anything you want to add to what you do.
Okay, so I'm Jason Hassler. I'm the director of Big River Paranormal in Portland. We also have a team in Boise, which I'm not the director for, thankfully, because they're way busier than we are. I don't have time for that. So, yeah, so basically we're the Oregon Taps family team.
Right
That's
on.
it.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay.
Putting you all on the spot now.
I'm on the spot. Thanks, guys. No, let's see. So I'm one of the original founders, team lead, and case manager for Olympic Peninsula Paranormal Society. We've been together just about 15 years now. I mean, there's a lot of people that have come and gone. So, but we're mostly on the Kitsap Peninsula, Bremerton, Port Orchard area in Washington. And yeah, it's been great. I've been loving it. A lot of fun and enjoying. Has been helping Pete the last 14 years or so at the Ghost Conference, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 14th annual Ghost Conference coming up
Oh, that's
in
right.
November. Woo! I can't believe it. Well, thanks for
Can't
coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show. Casey, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Well, I started researching in about 1994. Formed Oregon Paranormal with my good friend Scott Riedel in 2009, and here we are in 2023 talking about it.
Cool.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I couldn't quite tell.
You know, what a lot of people don't realize is there's a lot of work that goes into what we do.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
takes time.
Yeah,
It is.
It takes time. Yeah.
it is a job. That's for
Yep.
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Michael, tell us a little bit about Michael White, since we've got two Michaels on.
Ooh.
Tell us a little bit about your background in the paranormal and what you do.
Actually, I'm not even sure why I'm here. I was standing in line for Space Mountain, and
That pretty much covers it. Oh
yeah.
boy.
No, I currently run a little organization that is consisted of a lot of different people, pragmatic and rational investigations. Back before the pandemic, we actually used to do experimental research on different things, and I'd like to start picking that back up again. But, before I continue talking about myself, I want to thank you for the honor of coming back. I really didn't think you'd ever ask me back after the last time I was on your show.
Are you kidding?
No, but
Oh, boy.
you do so much for the paranormal
Oh,
community,
geez.
and you're just you're just a good guy, good family man. You've done
Thanks.
so much for Port Gamble. I just wanted to give you a shout out.
Oh, thanks,
I'm
man.
not crying. You're crying.
Anytime someone could say I'm a good family guy, then I'll take that. So thank
Good
you.
deal.
Thank you for coming on. Michael Beers,
Yeah.
tell us a little about what you do, your background a little bit in cryptozoology and paranormal, and
I've been involved in that
yeah.
stuff for over 40 years now. All aspects of the paranormal. But I really didn't start doing things with groups until like 2012. So I've had some close encounters. I've had Bigfoot sightings, which were up close and personal. Been involved in the ghost stuff as well. Just having a great time with life. Lots of
nice. Well, thanks for coming on, and I also want to give a special shout out to you as well. So Mike came onto the show as a producer for a time, and I must say, kind of really gave me a good push to keep it going and to keep going for guests that I didn't necessarily know. He kind of put me out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is a good thing. So Mike, I wouldn't be here without the push you gave me and the help that you gave to the show. So thank you
Thank you.
so much for
You're welcome.
all the work that you did. Is very, very grateful for that. You really kind
I-
of gave me the push, man.
I told you, buckle up. I'm going to get you some big guests, and it happened.
Yeah, thanks.
I think I had 12 overnight.
Yeah, it was like boom, 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 boom. You need to email these people. Boom, 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 boom. But thank you very much for everything you've done for the show and
It was fun.
continued support. So thanks very much. Ben, tell us your background in the paranormal and kind of what you do with the field.
Well, I kind of grew up around the open idea of spirits and ghosts and such. My father also talked about UFOs and aliens as a kid. He was very involved in that. So I kind of grew up around this idea, but it wasn't until about 2007 when I formed my first nonprofit, which was the Paranormal and Occult Research Team. Ran that for about 5 years. Stepped down because there was, as a lot of us know, there's a lot of work involved and a lot of heavy lifting sometimes when you run a nonprofit. So I decided I was going to go ahead and create a new nonprofit called the Autonomous Studies of the Enigmatic and Paranormal. And Michael's laughing because he has a hell of a time with that
I can't
name.
say it.
But I formed ASAP, and it now is a situation where we work with consultants that are outside of ASAP themselves. So like Michael White, Michael Beers, I guess Casey Goodwin, sometimes.
I guess.
No, so that's kind of how it is as far as the way I've designed ASAP. But I work a lot with these folks, and I'm very honored to be here. And I'm really glad to be able to talk to all of you guys.
Same, man. Thanks for coming on. Again, everybody, thanks so much. I got some comments going on. Good friend Jason Taylor here. Congratulations. Hey, Jason. And Corey, good friend of the show here. We'll try and talk some Bigfoot tonight for you. But he said, congrats. My wonderful wife, Molly, said, you are a great family man. Thank you, Molly. And I'll say she's probably given me the biggest push through this whole thing and supportive of me coming out here every Tuesday night. And when I was coming out here tonight, I was like, wait, I've done this 100 times. That's weird. When you say it like that. So thank you, Molly, and to my girls as well for all the support. Corey's like, hey, there's a Bigfoot guy. That's my style. That's you, Mike. The Mariner Blue, good friend of the show. Thank you for all your work, and congratulations, Pete, on 100th episode. And a good friend here, Linda, checking in. Linda Myers. Hey, Linda. Everybody say hey to Linda.
What's up, Linda?
So cool to see all these folks. And Mariah from Big River Paranormal too. Hey Mariah, thanks for watching. Okay, so I heard some of you mentioning a couple times, so I'm going to ask a question about it, about how much work it does take to conduct paranormal research, how much work it takes to deal with clients. Every aspect of being a paranormal investigator, there's a lot more work to it than you think. There's certainly a lot more than you see on TV, right?
Oh, yeah.
The work that goes into it. So knowing that there's so much work that goes into it, Casey, I want you to start off, being that it's so much work, what's the thing that's kept you going all these years since you started in 1994?
I think it's the discovery, the search for something otherworldly. I mean, we have an idea that there is something going on, trying to figure out whether or not it's something that's going on with the client themselves mentally and physically, or is there something else that's going on? So yeah, I mean, a typical case for us can last anywhere from 6 to 8 months, depending on the case, and that covers everything from the property and all the different types of interviews that we have to conduct with so many with the eyewitnesses and anybody else that could possibly be connected to the case that would add something to it to help validate something. So we get a lot of flack from people that call us or email us because they're expecting us to just, drop everything and then show up at a location. And when we have to tell them, it's like, we only take 2, maybe 3 cases a year because of the fact that it takes so much time to get through a case. And to this date, Oregon Paranormal's never closed an actual case. Every one of our cases is open. So our clients, our past clients, can always reach out and have us, do something if need be to come out and do another investigation or try and uncover something that we weren't able to find the first time around. So it's a lot of work, and it's not, it's not just going in for 6 hours and saying, yep, you got a spirit and this is that and we're done. It's a much more involved process.
Indeed. Well, and I like, the discovery parts, maybe what's kept you going. And I think that's probably what all of us would say.
Yeah.
The discovery, or, it's the chase for knowledge, to answer questions. Jason, with your teamwork that you do, you deal with a lot of different clients and such as well. Talk about the importance of putting in the work ahead of time with the client. Mary, you can add on to that after Jason, but Casey's talking about, there's a lot of interviewing that goes on. There's a lot of setup, things like that. Talk a little bit about the importance of getting a case started, like the right way. How do you do it?
Well, first of all, we contact the client and try to figure out what it is they're looking for us to do. And then we decide from there if that's something we can do or if it's not the right case for us. And if not, then we can refer it to somebody we think might be more, capable of handling that. Like if they're looking for a psychic, we don't really have those on our team. So we would pass it to somebody. And that would be depending on what they're looking to do with the psychic. Like if they're looking to get rid of it or just communicate with it, depends on which psychic you pass it to, or if they think they have like a demon or something, I don't know, then you just call June. But so yeah, we start there, and then we have to find out if it's a safe location for us to go to. So we check into the location, because not all locations and clients are safe. And then
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
How many people, raise your hand on here, have gone to an investigation location to start the interview process or whatever and been kind of scared more about the living than the dead?
Definitely.
So yeah, that's an important.
I have a story.
Oh, well, we might have to share that here in a little bit. But no, continue on, Jason. That's a great point, to make sure that it's safe for your team to even go there.
Yeah, I mean, because you never know what you're going to deal with. Sometimes you're dealing with somebody with mental health issues, maybe drug addiction, all sorts of stuff. And then you run into a lot of people who really don't need your help. They watch too much paranormal TV, and they think they have a ghost, and they're hopeful anyway. And then they get upset when you don't find anything. Those are my favorite clients. It's like, no, I know especially when you go in and you find a logical explanation for what they experienced, and no, that's not it. Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Yeah, indeed. Got another comment here. Poor Courtney, she's getting confused on who's talking. There's so many of us on here. Sorry about that, but I'll try and call names out for talking. Mary, anything you want to add to kind of the work, all the work that goes into setting up an investigation?
Yeah, our team does private and business locations. So we have, when we get contacted, I'm the one that will go and call them back and either do an interview on the phone when we have a form that we use that asks all kind of questions, or we'll meet in a public location. I like to kind of meet a person face to face, because I just can, I don't know, pick up the vibe from them, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's a lot of work, because you have to not only, interview the client, you have to decide, okay, person, like you said, Jason, are they mentally ill? Are they addicted? I mean, we've had people in the past that thought it was funny. They make stuff up and think it's a big joke. So
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a lot of work, and the follow through is a lot of work as well. We'll go initially if the client wants a investigation, because we're pretty clear about what we do. We'll tell them, hey, we'll investigate, but we're not gonna. If there's nothing paranormal here, we're gonna tell you. And we're just pretty upfront about it. And we'll also go to the home before the investigation is actually starts. We'll go and do a walk through the house, meet the family, interview whoever. I think it was Casey. Was it you that were saying that you interviewed a bunch of people that are related? Yeah, it was you that was saying that. Interviewing other people who may be involved in the case, any witnesses, that type of thing. So it's a ton of work. It really is, because not only do you have to do that, you're kind of the liaison for that person. And then you're also and then you're involved in doing evidence review and that kind of thing, and doing the write-up. So yeah, it's a lot. It's almost a full-time job, really. It really is.
You can make it a full-time job real easy. Yeah, real easy.
It was funny because back in the old days when I first started doing this, I would cold call places. I'd go to all these museums and places, businesses. I'd go in, hey, my name's, here's my card. We'd like to do, do you have any activity here? And people would be like, but most people are like, oh yeah, we've had some stuff happen. So I've gotten cases like that, believe it or not. So
yeah. Well, that's kind of how everything started here in Port Gamble, where I'm at with investigation. It was, I think it was the team that Neil McNeil was on, happened to contact the town manager at the time here in Port Gamble just to say, if you ever want us to come out, this would be such a cool place to check out with all the historical buildings. And then activity contractors started getting harassed quite a bit in the Walker Ames house here in Port Gamble. And so she called Neil's team in, and the rest is history. Here we are 20 years later.
Yeah.
It's cool. Pretty amazing how that works. So we got a good friend of the show, Jackie, checking in. Hey, Jackie, thanks for watching.
Hello.
And Jamie Lynn Keller, thanks for watching as well. Appreciate it. So, Ben, I think we're going to have to hear this story that you're talking about before I move on.
Yeah, I'll keep it as brief as possible, but it ties in with what sometimes we're able to do and what we're not able to be able to do, as far as the research and all the case study and everything. So, for example, I got a call while I was working on one case saying, hey, there's something going on. Children are involved, and everybody's frightened and they're freaked out. And I was like, okay, so let's talk with our current case and put that on pause for a second and then help these fine folks out. Well, the difference in this case was we weren't afforded the ability to do interviews or a walkthrough or any of that stuff, because where I live in Vancouver, Washington, they were all the way down in Klamath Falls, Oregon. Wow. And this was in the middle of the winter. And so we did everything we could to line up, an investigation so we could go down and see what we could do to find answers and help. We got there, and they were already ready to leave. They had already rented a hotel room or something like that. And so we had them sign the forms to allow us to be able to be there on premise while they weren't there. But they left. We started canvassing the place to try to figure out where we're going to put our gear. Mm-hmm. And one of the team members felt weird. And so we found out there was a high EMF level. We also found that there was shotguns and weapons behind doors and in corners of places. And then when we got upstairs, we were tracing this EMF field, and we found their surveillance camera looking at their front door. And, all of that can be excused and hey, that's fine. Until we went into the grow room that they had going on. And then at that point, I said, well, okay, we've got weapons that we don't know if are loaded or not.
Yeah.
We've got, and this was prior to recreational legalization of it.
Sure.
And so we were like, this is not a good situation. So we excused ourselves. And part of what I wanted to circle back on with regards to that is, yes, there's a lot of work involved, but sometimes it's best for us to do all this work because we're doing ourselves a service and the client a service. And in this case, these clients helped me develop better process and procedure, to say, hey, none of that stuff has to be on site when we're here. That you gotta put us in a situation where we're not, in a
danger.
precarious one. So
Yeah, not in any danger.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick station break here. It's 30 after. We're here on WLTK-DB and Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter. But stick around. I got some other questions coming up here, and we've got more comments to get to as well. But thanks to this amazing cast of guests here, taking time out of their evening to come on the show for the 100th episode. But we'll be right back, and I'm going to see if I can stump Michael White. Here we go. Stick around. Welcome back to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter Orbea, and I gotta say, Todd, you gotta slow that ad down so we can see what all the shows are. goes by too quick. There's a lot of good content on the station here. Download the station app. I use it to listen to shows when I'm on the go. But we'll give got someone. Hey Ben from the Pink Squirrel.
That's my boss.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then, hey all, hi Todd from Discamps. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Please forgive me. And then Dupra, Sherry LaFoon, happy 100. Thank you guys all so much. And Anthony Ceballos, hi paranormal people. Well, hello back to you. But welcome back to the show. And I wanted to ask Michael White about something that we've talked about before, but we've taught you said before that you almost like to observe the investigators during an investigation.
Yes.
Not only just looking for whatever the claims are in the place, but you're also watching the other investigators. Talk about a little bit about which we've talked about before, a little bit about the power of intention in the paranormal field. The power of intention with what you're doing in the paranormal field.
Well, absolutely. You put anybody into an environment that's going to stimulate the imagination, like going into a paranormal investigation. There is a possibility that you could be influencing the activity going around you, either through just your perception, or the possibility exists where you're actually changing the environment just based on your thoughts. So that was part of the experimental stuff that we were doing before the pandemic. But one thing that I'm always intrigued about is the initial claims of activity, because what most people fail to realize is that you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. And your eyes are just the receptors of light. Your brain puts it all together. And
Right.
with that comes all of your experience, imagination, and everything else, because you're only seeing small snippets of what we consider reality, and your brain is interpolating from there. So based on what your particular worldview is going to change what you observe. And of course, what you observe, what you consider that you have experienced. And when you're passing that on to somebody, it can be contagious.
That's a good word for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, power. I've talked about before, and I hope it's something that everybody takes time to figure out. And I think everybody here has had time to figure out what is it you want to get out of doing this, right? Why am I doing this research? Is it for my entertainment? Well, then you should stick to that. Am I in it?
Well, for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go. I didn't
No,
want
go
to
ahead.
interrupt again, I thought.
Go ahead, Michael.
Thanks. Now I forgot what I was going to say.
I knew it.
Is it for my? I love to problem solve, and this being in unique situations where it's not always the case where it's familiar. I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
9 times, if not greater, out of 10, something that somebody considered paranormal, I can find a rational explanation for. But that one piece of unexplained activity, to me, is still unexplained. I don't just say because we don't know what it is, then it has to be paranormal.
Right.
Because I even heard a well-known television show say, if it's not normal, it's paranormal. Well, that's not true. It's just not. It's unexplainable at the moment.
Right.
So, who initially coined the term? Casey might know this. Preternormal.
You gave me way too much credit. I have no idea.
I believe his name's Ben Robinson.
I think I read that on the internet.
Yeah. But
must be true
about that.
It's actually a great term because, back when we didn't know very much about anything, yesterday, things that, that were not normal, were totally unexplained. Well, there was an explanation. It was just beyond us at that time. Mm-hmm. So then later it became, explainable, and then it became normal. So, I think quite a bit of what we experience, we can't discount what the investigators are actually doing to the environment that might be causing what we call evidence, which really is just data. I think I've spoken enough.
Well, thank you. So I've got a question here from Anthony. It's an interesting one. Do you believe with the collective thought of a team that they could manifest a haunting?
I think that's just as possible as a ghost. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
I think it speaks to what Michael was talking about. A collective consciousness.
Or when you're it's contagious, or when you're looking for the spirit of blah blah. You probably will experience them if that's if you're so focused on looking for that.
Philip experiment.
It's interesting. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the Philip experiment was a perfect example of a collective unit of people putting together details about a person that didn't exist and seeing if they could, manifest something from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
these were people far smarter than us.
and they were Canadian. So
they were nicer too.
Yeah. Exactly right. And in that specific case, activity was recorded. They thought the tables were moving, their voices, all kinds of different things. So Anthony, I think the long way we answered that is yes, I think that's possible. Michael, brought that up as well.
Mhm.
Mike Beers, I wanted to ask you about so I would say that you've experienced in our talks when you came on the show, you shared some stories. You've experienced some different things, and not
Yeah.
just what we would consider ghosts or paranormal, but beyond that as well. Um, what's it what's it like being an experiencer of something that you were conscious for? Maybe you tried to collect some data from it, but when you have these experiences, how talk about what it's like to share those experiences, and how you've been able to kind of learn more yourself and get more into the research from just experiencing things that you weren't able to quantify. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, in the moment, no matter what it is, whether I'm in the woods or in a home or whatever. Um, First of all, I want to say I do this to gain life experiences. So really, it's just for me.
Right.
I'm not out to prove anything. I just take it all in, analyze it, think
Yeah.
about it,
I got
process it.
lots of respect that you know what you're doing with it. You know what I mean? Most people don't. So anyways, continue.
No, no worries. So in the moment, of course, there's excitement. There's objective stuff that's happening. You're like a sponge in the moment, just taking it all in. I'm kind of like Michael White, where I like to also look at the others. I observe them as well. Uh, I know that, especially like when I'm out bigfooting, which I don't do much of that anymore because I'm involved in other things. But there's a lot of people that in the dry duff of the forest, a mouse can sound like something that's 600 or 700 pounds. Just a little mouse scurrying is like, and people that are inexperienced will be going, "Oh my God, did you hear that?" So you just kind of sit back and go, "Oh boy," you know.
Yeah.
But you also have a learning opportunity there. You're looking at people's um, different ways of processing their information that they're getting.
Right.
For me, I kind of got thrust into this really early, very young, and got shut down by my family. When I would talk about experiences I was having, it led to them saying, "I think you need therapy." So I shut up about it.
Yeah.
I still kept having things happen. And as you know, I'm a remote viewer and other things as well. So, uh, I just learned to be quiet about it. But I still had things happening. So it's hard too when you're having experiences like that and you're learning about different things and you can't express it with those around you. So being in a community like this is great because we learn so much from each other. I share with you, you share with them, and collectively we have a really I think a great community. Great opportunities.
Yeah.
You've got skeptics, you've got people who are specialize in different things. You've got all these different sets of eyes and ears. Um, so for me, all the different fields in this paranormal field um, have been a great ride. It's been well, when I went on a camping trip with Casey and Ben, I not only had an opportunity to teach them some things, but I had opportunities to learn from them as well. And we did a lot of discussions, and we had a really good time. And I took a lot away from that trip. The same with you and being around Mike, and I've been around Mary, and you learn a little bit from everybody. So for these experiences that I've had, I think it's just made me see things. Well, obviously, see things differently than a lot of people, but it's made me see things um, in such a different light that it's opened up so many doors and so many opportunities to really see things in a different perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that conversations with you, Pete, that you do things a little different than I do as far as what your abilities are and all. So I find a lot of that fascinating, even though I'm doing some equally fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It's not what I do. So I like to pick your brain and pick her brain and, and Mike's brain and get what I can from that. And I think for all of us, if you and I were standing right next to each other having the same experience, it wouldn't be the same experience. You know, everybody's
Sure.
different. Everybody's perspective is different. Everybody's history causes them to look at
Yep.
things differently. But it's been all these experiences have been great from up close and personal unknown craft experiences to bipedal creatures in the woods that are 10 feet from me. In the open. It's been interesting. The trip that Casey and Ben and I went on, we had some really bizarre things happen. It was fun.
Unexplainable, right?
Yeah, it was fun.
Exactly.
And really just also I wanted to touch on, as far as setting up for an investigation
Hmm.
and all that it takes. Imagine, I mean, you guys know, but if you put out 8 recorders and 4 cameras, you've got hours of review to do, hours and hours, and you can't fast forward anything because you don't know. You just don't know what you'll miss. And
Yeah.
I've been analyzing photos and videos for going on 30 years now,
Wow.
and I've seen a lot of things, mostly just garbage, but but there's been those things where I'm like, wow, that is really interesting. Don't know for sure
Yeah.
what, but really interesting. Audio, I think, has been the most. I've had the most excitement out of the audio stuff because
Yeah.
when there's nothing and you're the only one there, and all of a sudden there's talking, it's interesting. It's compelling.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think, well, I've mentioned before, the audio is my favorite type of data to review. It just works naturally for me. I love it. I want to keep
Me
learning
too.
more about it. Oh, we lose Ben. He might have
Yeah.
had to go for a little bit.
He's done.
When I first got into the Bigfoot world, it was as far as community stuff. Everybody was putting out all these cameras and all these audio recorders. So I got thermal cameras and game cameras and all these other cameras,
Right.
all
Right.
these audio recorders. I was sticking all out in the woods. Well, I'm out there married to my equipment. While people are back in camp, the veterans back in camp having a good time and laughing, I'm out there, you know, deploying
Put.
equipment.
Yeah.
And then coming back to camp, I would think, did I hit record on that last one? Is that
Oh
the best
no.
angle for that? Did I change the batteries in that one? And then you've got all the review. So while they're, I'm downloading at camp the next day and trying to review some stuff while they're having a good time. So after that first year of being in with the community, I just got rid of most of that. I set out an audio recorder when I go out Bigfoot, and that's it. I don't do anything else.
That's enough to review, right?
It is, and I also, um, I really am about teaching what I know when I'm out, and I get more of a kick out of seeing people that are new in the field having experiences than my own.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. Yeah, indeed. And I'm always bragging about the Pacific Northwest, and the people out here in, Oregon and Washington and Idaho too that are I think we're in a unique situation out here. Todd, you're out in the Midwest. You know, what do you see out there with the paranormal field? Do you see it progressing, regressing? From all
I could
you interview a
see
lot of people. You interview a lot of people. So yeah, what do you think's going on?
Good question.
there's a big shift with the field itself. I mean, it's almost as if from what I'm, according to a lot of the interviews, they're talking about all of us coming together, para community. Um, there's going to be a separation. something like that's going to come up, in my opinion. We need to get together. That's the problem. We have all these resources now that we didn't have back in the day, and we're not even using them. We have social media. We're not even using it to share each other's research really anymore. We're using it more to expose ourselves.
Mhm.
And I'm seeing more of that too. And we need
Jason, how
to.
many people are on your team?
Are you talking to me?
Jason,
Yeah,
I
Jason,
think.
how many people are on your team?
Let's see. I think we have 12 in the Portland team, or
Are
11.
you experiencing what Todd's talking about? Are you feeling like some things are changing?
Yeah, well, not really. Not right now, anyway. I mean, things have kind of been the same for a little while, but as far as with my team, I mean, we've had some people in and out, that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of well, there used to be a lot more ego in the paranormal community, and I think than there is now.
Sorry
Yeah,
about
our
that,
team
Todd. I
tries
just
to
wanted
reach
to.
out.
No, Michael,
Yeah,
you're fine.
yeah, our
I've
team
seen a lot
tries
of
to
that
reach
stuff.
out. Yeah, for more. I mean, to other teams, we try to
Yeah.
be a little bit more interactive with other teams and kind of try to go with investigations on them just to see how they're doing things. But one of the things I've noticed is I've been getting a lot of client calls, and a lot of people are really interested in having a medium, psychic medium come out to the house and not necessarily want an investigation. And I hear a lot, well, we have our own equipment. I watch Ghost Adventures and I know what to do. So anyway, but yeah, that's interesting. That's a good point.
So, Todd, you were saying about separation. What does that feel like?
I don't know. It just feels like half of the community slipping. I see from the interviews, there's some crypto people that won't come on my show whatsoever because of it's just its title alone. Um, and I don't understand the separation. Why the separation? I understand there's a UFO community, there's a cryptozoology community. I get it. They have to be labeled. Everything has their label, but why the separation? Why do we not collaborate together? We don't have a set of guidelines. We don't have these. We don't have these tools. We have all this information, all this knowledge, and it's going nowhere, in my opinion. That's what I'm seeing. And it needs to be spewed forth, period. We just need to throw it up and give up what we know.
That's what I'm about, just sharing everything and trying to learn from others.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, you're talking about the separation. I mean, for all we know, extraterrestrials could be sending Bigfoot with a device that makes ghosts happen.
Exactly. Look at Michael.
That's legit.
That tracks well.
I'm not saying the aliens did it, but
Well, one of the things I've noticed is teams don't like to share their evidence with other teams because they're afraid that somebody's going to debunk their stuff. Whereas I would much prefer if I had something I thought was, unexplained, that I'd show it to Casey and he says, actually, that's this. I've had experienced that before. Right. And, I'd much prefer be able to do that rather than showing people, hey, I don't know what this is, when actually a lot of people probably do.
Peer review is a huge thing, and peer review not just with people in the paranormal community, but actually reaching out to people in specific disciplines like videography and audio engineering and structural engineering and stuff like those. Those are people that we've reached out to in the past, especially structural engineers and electricians and plumbers and scientists who can tell you, oh yeah, that stuff that you collected and sent us was in fact black mold or whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of different things that should be reviewed and shared within the community. But I think there's also a disconnect because you've got the research community that's following more guidelines that are kind of more streamlined with the parapsychological field. And then you've got, and I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people, but you've got a ghost hunting community that has been trained from their recliner because they're seeing stuff on Ghost Adventures and all these other TV shows. And I'm not trying to, crap on the TV shows and everything, but there's a lot of crap that gets spewed on these shows.
Oh
It's
man,
entertainment.
yeah.
I mean, the glorification of the Warrens, for example, with all the movies, and now they're getting a whole TV series on HBO Max that'll be based on the Warrens case studies. So there's a vetting process that has to be done, I think, if a lot of people are going to start sharing stuff, because everybody's got an agenda, and a lot of times those agendas aren't furthering the field, it's furthering their 15 minutes of fame, whether it's promoting on Facebook or I want to get the next TV show. It's a slippery slope. It's very difficult to get people on board with that.
Yeah, and
it wasn't that long ago, Casey, speaking of like plumbers and stuff, that Kathleen and I were checking out somebody's house down in Oregon, and she kept hearing this knocking at times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so when we went in the basement, I explained to her what water hammer is. That sometimes there's bang, 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 bang.
Oh, no.
And
I've got a pipe in our house that's doing that now.
I told her you can put a device on there that eliminates that, but that's what it is. It's nothing paranormal.
It really kind of boils down to like intention too. Like Michael said earlier, is with the way we're handling all of this, the research, the interfacing, the sharing, it's our intention. What do we want? Like Mike was saying, he's in it for just the personal relationships and the experiences, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
If you're going to be doing this for the purpose of forwarding the field, there's nothing wrong with this. You got to put your best foot forward, and have the right, just foundations under your group and the way you handle your cases.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started doing all this, I've been doing it so long that there was that part of me that wanted to be the guy that proved it, and this or that. But that changed. My intention changed. My paradigm changed at some point. Yeah. And when that happened, it just became a situation where I wanted to meet new people, have new experiences, and just collect that stuff and try to learn as much as I could. And like with you guys that I've been around for so many years, that's been a great journey. But there was a time where I was about being that guy, the one. Yeah. And that was a lot of ego stuff going on in there. But also, that's what everybody was doing, especially with the Bigfoot stuff, was you want to get first of all, there's no money shot. It just isn't. And no matter what you get in any field, there's no money shot. So you got to throw that one out the window right away. But to be able to say definitively, I saw this and that, I experienced this and that, and then that's up to whoever you share that with to be a believer or just roll their eyes. And so, that happens a lot, especially in a big field. But yeah, there was a time when I was gung-ho, and now I'm just chill but I get excited still when things happen, and I still have a good time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Casey and Pitt could tell you that.
We got a couple of great comments, and we're unfortunately getting to the end of the first hour here, but Courtney had a good comment. No reason to be against each other. We need to be able to share the stage and spotlight like you guys are tonight. And so thank you for that. And then Corey's commenting here. I think this was interesting as well. I've been highly interested in Bigfoot for many years, but was always afraid of ridicule if I spoke about it. Yep. And Todd and Pete and others in the field taught me not to be afraid and to push forward. I finally came through and with others organized Crawford County Bigfoot Hunters. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. Well, that's awesome, man.
Hey, Corey, you can reach out to me on Facebook. Send me a friend request if you want to chat about some things or you have some questions. I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. Another good friend of the show here, Michael Laciana. He's out on the East Coast, so it's pretty late for him right now. Thanks, Mike, for the 100th show. We've got to have you back on soon. And then the Pink Squirrel was asking, Love that. What was your favorite case and how did it change your perspective? But unfortunately, guys, we're out of time for the first hour. But again, I'm always bragging about the Pacific Northwest and the minds in the paranormal fields and beyond that we have out here. And you guys are all great examples of that. And thank you guys again for coming on the show for the 100th episode. You've all been a big part of my journey. Yeah. Casey was my first guest. He's here on the 100th show.
Only because Neil canceled.
Well,
That's good.
I was honored to have you as my first
I'll
guest.
take it, dude. I was honored to be the first.
Yeah. So, but you guys, thanks for everything that you do in the paranormal field, everything you've done to help the show. And Todd, can we play this new song from Steady Rock Cosmonaut while we transition over to the second hour where we're going to welcome some other guests? I hope you guys will stick around. You can stick around backstage and then watch. Mike, do you have a question?
2 things. Thank you for letting me be a part of the ride.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Thank
And
you.
Casey and Ben, we need to get together and do another camping trip.
Amen.
If we have to. Okay.
Let me know. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, you keep saying that, but it doesn't happen. You're too busy.
Well, we need to make it happen. But thank you guys.
Thank you.
And as we say goodbye to these wonderful folks and get ready for our next round of guests, very excited to be debuting a new song from Steady Rock Cosmonaut. It's a song called Old Gods, and I hope you all like it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Pete.
Bye.
Good seeing everybody. Thanks, Pete.
Everyone keeps on forgetting about the old gods. The gods of spite behind red eyes. Magic and spells could help you tell what direction your life would take. It might be time to sacrifice people again. Rip out their hearts and put them in a bowl over a flame. Everyone keeps on forgetting about the old gods. Where justice and right were behind your eyes. No heaven or hell would help you tell what direction your life would take. It might be time to sacrifice people again.
Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTK-DB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Pete Show. I hope you enjoyed the song from Steady Rock Cosmonauts, a new song called Old Gods. Got my bandmate Brandon here. Congrats, Pete, Old Gods. Hope you enjoyed that. And then, yes, indeed, it might be time to start sacrificing people again. We might be there. But welcome back to Mary Phipps, great friend of the show. Great show to the first hour. Congratulations. Thank you. Courtney's saying badass. Well, thanks a lot. You can check out steadyrockcosmonaut.com. Thanks, Michael Laciana, as well. Great song. Thanks, you guys. So we've got another hour of the show, and I can't believe I did about my first 20 shows here on the station as 2-hour shows, and was able to get through pretty well, and then went to 1-hour show format, and it definitely goes by so quick. I feel like the last panel of guests, we could have kept going. And so many thanks to them. Joss Rose, guest last week from Fright Life Paranormal, New Tracks Killer. Thank you. Thanks, Joss. And be sure to check out Hawks Glove, his band as well. And that's HAWKES. There we go. A little cross promotion there. Jason commenting on the song was great. Thank you. Heidi as well. Heidi Mitchell, thanks for watching. Congratulations on your 100th episode. Thank you for a great first part of the 100th episode. Well, thank you. And it's the thanks go to all the guests, and the thanks go to all the previous guests of this show that have been on and have been a part of this and have been a part of helping people learn new things, and certainly helping me learn new things each week. And so it's a lot of fun. And again, big thanks to Todd Bates, station owner, for making this all happen and giving us all this platform to share each week. So it's a ton of work on the back end to pull this whole thing off. So big thanks to Todd. So this second hour, I wanted to bring on some special guests, ones that have had an impact on my journey as a medium. After I like to use the saying that Karen Fraser said, good friend of the show, of the universal 2x4 smacking me in the head, and changed my life basically. But for this second hour, I wanted to bring on some special people. Always have a special place in my heart in my mediumship journey, and can't thank them enough for the work that they do, in their own lines of work and helping people. It's quite amazing. I can't imagine how many hundreds of people these three guests we're going to bring on have helped over the years. It's really quite amazing. So let's have a big Paranormal Pete Show. Welcome to the 100th episode, second hour. We've got Miss Hinkasha Amenti coming on the show. We've got Mr. William Becker coming on the show. And we've also got Mr. Seth Michael coming back on the show. Welcome, guys. Thanks everybody for taking time for the later hour to come on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you all. And I think Seth, you were like my third or fourth guest on the show when I started out. But welcome back. William's been on the show a couple times. I've had Hinkasha on the show a couple times, and everything you guys share and is I always find to be helpful. But thank you for coming on, and thank you for being a part of my journey in dealing with spirits and helping people. The professionalism you guys bring to it is something that I always try and work towards. because I think you should be professional with it. It lends to credibility and everything like that. So thank you for that. Seth, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do? White light, your own work. Tell us a little about what you do.
Okay. Again, it's great to be here,
Woo!
and congratulations on the 100th episode. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So, I guess I'll start with I've done formal readings for about 30 years, and we started White Light Paranormal Insight, a team, about 12 years ago, and we also have. We've done classes. I've done classes with the Vision Collective throughout the years, and at your conference, Port Gamble, Oregon Ghost Conference, that William Becker co-founded, and we have put out a documentary by Tristan Luciati, and it features myself and friends, just telling our experiences about what we believe our abilities are. And I think that's about all I can think of.
Well, that's pretty darn good. Thanks for sharing. William, tell us a little bit about the work that you do. Also being a historian. Just introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you. And I really have enjoyed watching your journey, Pete. It's been fabulous to see you opening up and blossoming this way. And Kasha, I want the room you're in.
Come move in with me.
I'll be up tomorrow. I was looking at the first opening of the show, and it's beautiful and it fits you. I'm William Becker, and Paranormal Insights is the business I have, and I've been working with. Oh, geez. I saw my first ghost when I was 8 or 9. I've always been interested in metaphysics, and I've started working with my own mediumship abilities late teens, maybe junior, senior in high school, definitely by the time I was a freshman in college. And so that was only yesterday, but
sure.
Sorry, I'm full of bad humor, but it's part of my charm. But I enjoy working with people all over, and with the history part, Rocky Smith with Northwest Ghost Tours was the first person who's heard say this. It's not that the places are haunted; their history repeating themselves. Well, you have paranormal beings where you have history, and I mean the two are dependent on each other in many ways, not exclusively when you really get into it, but I thrive on both of those. And when I love working with clients, I really love teaching, and when I can be sitting in a Neolithic burial tomb or henge or Pharaoh's tomb and watching the processions, I'm so happy, because that history coming alive.
Right. Yeah, that's your happy place.
That's my happy place.
That's your happy place. Well, thank you, William. Thanks for coming on. And Kasha, tell us a little bit about your work and what you do.
Well, I am a Windbridge certified research medium. I joined them many, many years ago, and I started having experiences when I was very young. And then throughout my teen years, I spent time studying, I didn't do formal readings except things for my friends and things like that. But I studied a lot of things that were fringe at that time in the 60s, and found myself without a lot of guidance. So I ended up doing some things and following some people that really got me into a lot of difficult places. And I determined that I needed to kind of make a change in my life because I was going in a very, I considered a really destructive path. And I made a big change because I took that pendulum, and that proverbial pendulum swung all the way over to marrying a minister, joining the ministry, and going to Bible school. And I spent 12 years in that kind of very restrictive environment.
Right.
And we're talking earlier tonight about beliefs. I thought that was so fascinating, and I think Michael White was expounding on that.
Mhm.
And that's when I really discovered the power of belief and how truly our beliefs inform really everything about our lives.
Right.
And how easy it is for us to absorb other people's beliefs
Yeah.
or just the people around us, and information we hear can all of a sudden seep in without us really having an opportunity to weigh it, to see if it really sits correctly in our lives and hearts,
Right.
and is something that works for us. But I think that's where a lot of people struggle with
Right.
the paranormal and with mediums and psychics and energy workers, is they've had a foundation of beliefs that don't support any of that, or don't
Right.
even allow the questioning. And I think questioning is extremely important. So I'm a questioner. I like to question my experience, everyone's experience, not in
Yeah.
a challenging way, but challenging myself to always think about what I'm experiencing.
Mhm.
Right. And that everlasting quest of, we're never going to get all the answers, so we keep asking questions, and you're on the right trail if you come up with more questions than answers. Usually. Yeah, exactly. We got a couple comments here. If I can get my computer to work. Jody saying, great to see my favorite mediums. Very kind. Thank you, Jody. Courtney saying, my son would love all your Nutcracker figurines, William.
You're only seeing a fraction of them.
Oh, wow. Wow. And then Jason Taylor, yes, amazing setting in Kasha. I agree. I love that chair.
Thank you.
I got dibs.
Whole story on that chair.
Yeah. Well, so, and Kasha
Gorgeous.
set up in Port Gamble for a while, a number of years ago. And we had these old chairs that were used in the church that she used in her office here in Port Gamble. And I just have to say, those are like the most comfortable chairs I think I've ever sat in. Those old ones from the church. And Akasha, I want to let you know that they are back at the church. The pastor, I saw them when we were down in the museum and asked, oh, well, can we use those? And he remembered them from being a kid going to church there. And so they're back up there where they originally were. So yeah, they're being used. They're still being used. They're not just sitting in storage. So
yay.
Great chairs there. Well, I got a few questions. Just to kind of get the conversation going, if you guys have something that you want to touch on, that's, how the show is, we're easy going here. So feel free to speak up. But something that I ask a lot of people on the show, just in at conferences, things like that, and I want to get your take on it, because there does seem to be a little bit of a split opinion. Do you guys think that everybody is psychic? Seth, can you take that one to start?
Okay.
No pressure.
I don't know. I've heard it said.
That's an acceptable answer. Yeah.
I believe that most people have the potential to tap into something outside of themselves, or through themselves. But yeah, I really don't know if everybody is anymore. I used to think, but now I'm not sure.
So just through your own experience, your opinion, has changed.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, definitely.
I that's a great answer. I think that is, totally viable way to put it. William, what about you? Do you think everyone is born psychic, inherently psychic? What do you think?
I think it's part of our basic DNA, our physical and soul DNA, to be honest. I think it goes back to early survival before we had language. I mean, the
Okay.
human species is relatively new on the planet, but we still have been around, modern humans, for over 200,000 years. Plus, then we have some of the other offshoots that we're close to. And we're not quite sure when speech was developed or language was developed, but within the last 100,000 years is what I'm seeing as probability. So I don't know. So I think it was a big part of getting along and helping to avoid the neighbor's club and the saber-toothed tiger down the street. Um, and I think that we live in a culture, in a world that distracts us from us. Sometimes deliberately telling us it doesn't exist or it's evil or so many things, or just busying us with so many other things that we block it out. And even if you didn't grow up in a religious family, it's a culture that has been shaped by mostly Western Christianity in this country. I mean, I'm not talking, obviously, if you're in the Middle East, it's a different shaping.
Right.
But you still have the basic idea that you have certain things that are acceptable and certain things that aren't. And it's implied, whether or not it's actually said. And so I think it's just allowing ourselves to open up. And, when I was a kid, I just didn't talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I knew to be invisible. That was safe. And
Yeah.
then later on, I made sure I talked about it around people who were supportive and not others. And now I don't care what people think. As long as I'm honest and open in my approach, I don't expect them to believe me or not. I mean, I speak my truth, and they
Yeah.
can do it with it as they will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And I think more and more as time goes on, it seems like there's a progression in how things went for you as far as being able to reach outward with it.
mhm.
And I think that it's just continuing on that path. And I hope it keeps growing to be more accepted and more people opening up, which I think more and more as time goes on, more people are opening up. There's another awakening going on. And Kasha, what do you want to add to that? What do you think? I mean, is everyone psychic, or is it something that you have to learn? What do you think?
I love this question. I get this question a lot. In fact, it's something that I love talking about. So I really do believe that everyone has psychic abilities. I believe that. I believe that, like William was talking about, we're born with them. They're kind of innate they're part of our DNA, as he said. And then as time goes on, things kind of block them or overshadow them. And life overshadows them many times.
Mhm.
But, and this is where some people will disagree with me. That's fine. This has been my experience, and this is what I have seen, is that not everyone has developed their psychic abilities or is really able to do psychic readings.
Right.
The same,
Mhm.
right?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No, that's fine.
yay. Mm.
To me, it is exactly like saying everyone is gifted enough to be a teacher. I think being a teacher, a true teacher, is a gift, because we've all had great teachers and really awful teachers, right?
Right.
I think in the same way, not everyone has the ability to become a wonderful brain surgeon. Not everyone has the ability to be an engineer. Not everyone has technical abilities. That's me. In this, and it's very important, and I mean this, some people will say, no, everybody can be a medium. I don't believe that either. I don't. I believe everyone can have psychic experiences of their own, where their psychic abilities, will tell them something's going to happen, or they have a sensation about something. And I do believe everyone can have mediumship experiences where they have a connection with their loved one on the other side. I absolutely believe everyone can develop their connection with their loved ones. Do I believe that everyone can automatically become a medium overnight? I absolutely do not. And I see a lot of people who they hear from their grandma. Their grandma appears on the side of their bed, or they hear their dad's voice after their dad passes. They smell his tobacco. And then they say, oh, guess what? I'm buying a book. I'm a medium. Here's my business cards. And I got a website. And it's like, that's great. But it's unfortunate, because in the same way, and I use this example a lot, 2 examples. I took piano lessons for several years. You would not want to hear me play. Ever.
Darn.
Ever. But I took those lessons, but I do not have that kind of musical ability. I just don't. I practiced. It wasn't in me. It didn't come out, even though I did what people, so I could learn, but I wasn't really a pianist. I wasn't a musician. I didn't have that in me.
Sure.
Right? I have had a lot of dental work in my life, and I've had probably 6 root canals. They're no fun, and I'm sure those of you who've had them know, right? Dental work is no fun. That doesn't make me a dentist. I've had the experience. Right? I've had the experience. You'd say, well, you just don't want everyone to be a medium. No, that's not true. I want every medium, every doctor, every teacher, every attorney, every engineer, every person who delivers the mail. I want them to be the best they can be. And I want them to be doing it because it's what they want to do, whether they get paid or not. That's their calling. That's what I hope.
Yeah. Great answers by everybody. And
can I expand on something too?
No, your turn's over, Seth. Your turn's over, Seth. No. Actually, absolutely. Go ahead.
Going first, because I don't have time. I'm a delayed thinker. So,
yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Seth.
But I appreciate being able to jump in real quick, because I do want to say, I want to explain that once again, I do feel everybody does have the capability of accessing abilities. Okay. And I totally agree with Ankasha too about not everybody is I'll say meant to or has a purpose of reading, so they're different degrees of abilities. I feel that too, that go with it.
Right.
So, and it does take it took me years to develop and to realize that I may have something, to offer with that. So I was skeptic. I'm still skeptic on myself. I make sure I do the best I can with, okay, how could I possibly know that? Am I question myself often and the visions, and I just want to make sure I'm seeing things clearly and I'm not having any. I close my eyes a lot when I'm doing readings because I don't want to see any body language or. I just want to give it what I get. So.
Yeah, give it straight up as things come in. A couple comments, and then we're going to take a real quick our last station break. Mike Beers, who was just on, for most of us, our parents deprogrammed us and reprogrammed us to fit in. In doing so, they do us a great disservice. And that kind of speaks to, you know, everything that's distracting, right? That everything that's distracting in the world, and to be normal, you have to do this and this and this, and there's all these distractions. And Courtney was adding that she had a nonverbal son, and for 6 years he didn't speak. And I will say we were absolutely in some form of telepathic communication for a huge portion of his early years of life. Even now, we still just know. Even my other two kids are very in tune with mama, intuitive, I guess I would say. And I think, you know, everybody has those in, like Akasha was saying, everybody can have a psychic experience or a mediumship experience. And it just goes across the board. So we got a great question to come back with. We're going to take our last station break here. Again, and Kasha, William, and Seth, thank you guys so much. And thanks again to the first panel of guests. We're on here on WLTK-DB.com. This is the Paranormal Pete Show, episode 100. I'm your host, Peter Orbea. Stick around. We'll see you on the flip side. Maybe. Or are we just going through? Let's see here.
Everyone.
Oh, wait. I just read it here. There's no break. Well, we're going to keep going then. We got to keep it rolling here. So, good friend of the show, Jason. So, when do you feel or know you have this gift or abilities? So, William, you talked about, you know, seeing your first ghost when you were a child, and interacting with it, not just seeing it, but
Right.
interacting. What's, I guess maybe more so, if you can answer the question more so, when was it that, like, as you got older and had, you know, more perspective on life and everything, when did you know that you had these gifts or abilities?
Late teenage years, basically. And it was working with other people mostly, and picking up. I had a good friend for several years that we played psychic games together, and we'd read each other's family members that had deceased. We kept working. I didn't have a formal teacher then. I had, you know, I've worked with a variety of people over the years, and a lot of just self work.
Yeah.
And also not always following in the right footsteps, or stumbling down interesting paths that it takes a while to clear.
Right.
But so with the mediumship, I would say close to 50 years ago
Okay.
is when I started really starting to practice and work with it. I've been professional for, I don't know, 15, 14, 12. I don't remember.
Something. But
Yeah.
like, so how did you, I guess, how did you, like, how did you know with confidence in yourself that you were psychic? Like, how did you, I guess, how did you know? Did it feel a certain way? Like, how did you know it was just happening?
I could start feeling I was getting confirmation.
Okay. Validation from other people. And okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you can then read, I wouldn't have known something, and then I read about it, or I see the picture of what I had seen. Things like that. And you develop over time, and this is part of what I tell people, students too, is you can feel, for me anyway, how it works in my brain. I mean, what's opening? What's being triggered in my head to a degree, and how I'm receiving things compared to how I imagine things.
Okay.
There's a difference for me. And those are just parts of the keys, especially early on learning. And then validation, 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 validation. You know, because it takes a long time. And it was actually a trip with Karen Fraser to Wellington that was really the solidification of how the skill levels
and how things were feeling and
because I'm walking around this site, not having been allowed to read the book, and I'm talking about what happened in different parts where the town had been, and getting the names and ages and occupations of the people who died in the train, and a bunch of stuff that I had no access to.
Right.
And there were no clues in the landscape too. And so that was a huge piece of validation with that. But a lot of other people too. My therapist told me. I mean, and
Nice.
and she encouraged me to go professional before I ever did, because I really, it's not a joke, and you're working with people and you're working with their emotions, and you have to have the responsibility of doing your best work and delivering it the best way possible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a piece of human art involved in this to help make sure the message comes across as the message is and it's intended, but also is appropriate in a sense.
Right.
It's a little difficult to explain.
You want to have some bedside manner, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, the way to put it. And Kasha, same question to you. When do you feel or know that you have these abilities? When do you feel that? Like, or is there, for you, when did you know that, okay, this is what it is and I'm going to pursue it?
Well, I was very young when I first had my experiences of touching objects or touching places and seeing people that were deceased, not just images of what had gone on in the place, but also, especially with clothing, I could touch clothing or jewelry. And I love doing that. I love psychometry. I love being able to touch a building or an object, especially, and tell something about the person. If I could, at that time, I was so young that I would just see people connected to it and I would start to describe it. I didn't really have any experience of knowing that people were ghosts or, it was some kind of a haunting or anything like that. I could just see who the person was or hear their name and tell something about them.
Yeah.
And my father very much confirmed, and the people, I'd go into antique stores really, and that happened. And they would go, well, how did you, okay. Is that right? Yes, it was. Now I had no inclination at that time that this was going to be what I was going to do. There was no real information out there at that time about this is the path you follow. So
right.
First, but I always had a calling on my life to help people. That's really part of the reason why I went into the church, probably the main reason. And I think what William said was very important, because for anyone who feels that they may have a gift and an ability, I encourage that. I love to work with people who do have those abilities or kind of opening up those abilities, whether it's psychic or mediumship or both. But especially in mediumship, I think until you can know that the information you're delivering is correct, is evidential, not just my favorite statement, your grandma loves you. Everybody's grandma loves them. But, if you can give evidential information, if you can give it in consistently, and if you can give it, as William was speaking about, in a way that is caring for the person. In mediumship, it's not just about, oh yeah, you're going to buy this color car next year, or you're going to move. Most people don't get too emotional about that, but when you're springing through information from their loved one on the other side, you really should have extensive counseling or grief training. I truly believe that. And many of the people who I meet are not, probably because they just haven't had the training. I'm sure they're well-meaning, but they just don't they're the things that they're saying to people, they need to be very careful how they're saying it and bring it forward in a way that's supportive and truthful, but that
Yes.
brings assurance
Yes.
and comfort.
Yes. Yeah. Being conscious of what you're delivering
Yes.
and what it could mean to somebody. And then Seth, so Molly kind of altered the question here, and it's kind of interesting. So Seth, how did you know that I had psychic abilities? Are all psychics able to see other psychic ability if they take the time to look for it? So yeah, it's like, how did you know that I was? You know, you probably don't even remember the reading you did for me, but because I know how it goes, you don't remember, you know, every reading and everything that comes through. But like, can you see other people's ability? Can you like say, oh yeah, I think you have abilities, if you're doing a reading for somebody, you know, I know you don't just go around saying like, hey, you're a medium. Hey, you're I know you don't do that, but you know, when you're doing a reading for somebody, like, how do you know that I was it because of what you saw? Or, you know, you kind of sat me down and the first thing you said was, you're going to do your own reading. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this is how it went.
No, it was custom. It's all custom. That I do remember that part, and you've told me some things too to jog my memory. And yeah, sometimes things are totally different, and I just go with it, and that's what I felt with you, and that's why I had you kind of looking at things yourself at the same time. I wrote things down, and then we compared, and it was the same. It was the same information. So that was pretty cool. How that came about. I don't know how I knew. I don't, but it reminded me of when, because I had met a new friend, and not long into knowing her, she said, "You know, you're a medium, right?" And I said, "What is that?" I was in my 20s, and she said, "Remember your imaginary friends?" And yeah, I'm looking back, thinking about them, and she said, "That's when it started." And I really kind of did some thinking on that, and it made sense to me because the imaginary friends wouldn't usually be the same. They wouldn't follow me to different places, and they weren't kids. Then there was information that came along with them that just certain things they said. Mom didn't know how I would come up with some things that I told her. She thought I just had a great imagination, so she didn't squash anything that way, and it wasn't scary that way for me.
Yeah.
So I just went with it, and that's what I did in the beginning too. So I just went with everything, and I would do practice readings, just as many as I could. And I agree, validations are how you know that you're connecting, and it's important to get details. I remember one of the first readings I did, this guy really wanted to be a police officer. It was reading for her, it was a lady, and it was about her son and how is he going to go and things like that. It was more of the psychic reading. And I remember kept seeing locks and keys. And I said, I feel that he's going to be a locksmith, actually, and going to be an apprentice in about a year. And they called me a year later and said that because they were totally doubtful, like, no. He just kind of came into it. So it was many things like that, like things that I couldn't guess at. And I often, like I said, ask myself. So back to the original question, yeah, I just don't know how I knew. It's just something that, it's like an intuition or a feeling. Yeah. I just went with it.
Okay.
And what I got, and I don't get that for hardly for many people.
Okay. Yeah. Great answer.
Because like Unconscious said too, not everybody it goes into the reading part or is meant. I use my word meant for that. So I'm a little nervous. I don't know why.
You're in a safe place here, Seth. So we got another question here, and then I've got a question. So another question is whether positive or negative, does it affect you differently or the same? So like if, you've had that reading where you're not seeing nice stuff, let's say on the negative side, or the flip side, it's very, awesome and lots of love and everything. But, does it affect you differently between a negative or positive stuff coming through? And is it hard to give negative feedback if you're presented it or you see it, or like how, I guess, is it hard to give that darker information? I guess maybe some things you see from that person's life that wasn't great. Is it hard to give that feedback? And Kasha, I'd like to start with you. Whether positive or negative, does it affect you differently? And is it hard to give that hard nuts and bolts of a reading to somebody that you see?
I don't think it really affects me differently, except internally, I make certain that that what I'm seeing and what I'm getting, it is not just something that the other side is showing me, that they will. Let me back up on that. That they want to talk about something negative, perhaps that happened with the sitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I make certain that I ask usually permission then from the sitter. Your father wants to discuss the things that happened to you in third grade, right? A total
Right.
example out of the blue.
Right.
And the person may hesitate and say, I don't really want to talk about that. And I've had that
Right.
happen. I just don't want to. And I respect that. And I relay that to the other side. And they're usually understanding of it. I've never had anyone say, no, I'm going to talk about it. Many times they want to bring those things up. And it may be a negative situation that can cause some painful memories with the person. But in talking about it, it brings out the fact that this other person now understands that perhaps they were the cause of those painful experiences. I've had many parents do that. That I'm sorry I did this, or I'm sorry these things happened to you, but it wasn't because I didn't love you, that kind of a thing. And sometimes that's what they need to hear, is the truth. But if you can connect it to a real experience, it's important to do it. So it doesn't affect me differently. I'm just a little more cautious about the verbiage that I use and how I present it to the person. Just like I would if I was coming up to you, Pete, and saying, hey, how's everything going? Or, and that would be a real positive feeling. Or if your dog just died and I came up and went, hey, how's that dog? I wouldn't do that because I would, if I knew about it, I would be caring about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great answer. William, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Ankasha. I think one of the things that would be different between the two is with the negative, I look and ask for them to show me maybe more, that I can put that whole picture together like you were talking about, and put the positive piece to it, the learning piece to it, what they had to say about why, what was going on with them in life at the time. I mean, helping to understand. And it's been really remarkably healing for people often to have that kind of a thing happen. And I haven't asked for permission exactly the way you do, but I watch and I always give opportunities frequently for them to say no, or we could direct a different way, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just the way the reading flows.
Sure.
And I get into it in the conversation, and it's a little difficult, but yeah. I try to be I try to be careful of people's hearts.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Seth,
Yeah.
what does positive or negative, information, or somebody you're connecting with, does that affect you differently, or just the same either way?
I would say it all depends what it is. Because I
Sure.
was kind of thinking about different scenarios, like am I picking up if the person is abusing drugs or alcohol? Is it that kind of thing, or do I say something about it,
Hmm.
um or I remember one time it was a reading about a little girl that had been murdered, and she wanted, I feel like she was showing me what happened, and I did ask permission on that, especially I said I believe she's showing me things step by step of what happened. I asked the grandma, do you want to hear? And then I kept asking myself, is this in the greatest highest good for me to say this, or what is the best way to say things? And
Yeah.
it all depends. And like I said, it depends on what it is too, if it affects me. Sometimes, a couple times I've went through secondary trauma. I just, it would bring things back in me later, not during the reading, but later. Like if there was a dog that died a certain way, and it affected me all night, and but it was my stuff. It wasn't going
Okay.
through theirs. It took me to my stuff, and then I took it as an opportunity to do some more healing.
Mhm.
So
Very. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's amazing that through all your different experiences, to be conscious to realize, this is my stuff,
Right.
and to also, it speaks to the kind of person you are, that you can also be like, I'm going to find a positive in this,
Mhm.
and an opportunity in it to find some more healing. That's wonderful. I've got a question. Then there's one more audience question, and I think we're going to be out of time. um over the years, I'm experiencing this. It feels like it's every year something new, or every other year, as all of you have gone through your journey, from the start, when maybe a little less confident in yourself. How, like, does the way you get your information, does the way you communicate and connect with spirit change over the years? Does it change with more experience? Like, has it changed the way you get things over the years? William, you take this one, and then we'll go to Seth, and then Nkasha. Has it changed over the years for you?
I think so. I think in some ways it's matured. As I've gotten older and matured more, and my ability to communicate with others in life,
Right. Or living. Yeah.
yeah, I think the same happens with the others, and also more experience,
Hmm.
and with other beings other than just humans.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it does. I feel close, more of a part of it, maybe. Um, and
Sure.
I mean, the metaphysical journey is a constant one. And I don't mean
Right.
just developing the medium skills, I mean my own path.
Yeah.
And as that develops and I become more of my true self, that affects my work
Yeah.
in its own development and becoming more its true self, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. We
Makes
both,
sense.
the
Yep.
telos is part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's always evolving for me. Seth, what about you? How, like, has it changed for you over the years? What kind of information, how you connect, you know, do you connect with animals, whereas before you didn't? How has it changed for you over the years?
well, at first I started with psychic only, but then spirits were coming through, so it evolved that way. And then as I went along, I just learned kind of tips and tricks on my own, how to figure out for like if I see something, is it symbolism of something? Is it, some just kind of I was getting used to how I work too. Like if I'm feeling something and seeing something and how to combine everything with the knowing and things like that. And then I want to speak to the part where I had health issues that sort of slowed my brain down. I felt different and I needed to take a break. I'm on a break right now. Well, I started doing some more readings, some practice ones, getting back into it, but I took a long couple year break actually. And because I was feeling, but I wasn't getting the same information as I wasn't getting the same amount of details. So as I'm feeling better, the information seems to be getting back where it was.
Yeah. So you had to kind of heal your physical self.
Right.
That
Right. That was
maybe,
the time to step back for a bit.
Yeah. Well, that makes me very happy that you're getting better and
Thank you.
Getting back to it. That's awesome. And Kasha, has things changed over the years for you?
Well, it took me a while to really understand my language. In other words, the language that my mind was using for signs. Seth was talking about that, the way they, would speak, what kind of symbols things would mean. Because, I would look at books and it would say, oh, this means this and this means this. And I would think, well, why am I not? Why is that not happening for me? I'm getting this, or they're saying this. And I get a lot of music. I get a lot of movies. I get a lot of things like that show up that I never saw in any book.
Right.
And I had to learn to trust that, to trust the other side. A lot of times I think we doubt ourselves, but I never doubt them. Right.
Sure.
I know that it's just, if there's a mistake that's made, it's that it's not them. It's that I have somehow taken what they've shown me, made me feel, made me hear, think about. I've taken that and I've maybe interpreted it in my own little human way, instead of just talking about or saying it. Unless over the years people would say, oh, a pink rose means this, a white rose means this, and a red rose means this. Now it may to that person, and that's absolutely valid. But to me, it's like, oh, what I would do, it goes, there's a pink rose, there's a pink rose, there's a pink rose. And they go, oh, okay, it doesn't make sense to me. And halfway through the reading, they go, now my mother's name was Rose.
Yeah.
So why didn't I just say, they're showing me Rose?
Yeah.
Does Rose mean anything to you?
It happened to me with like a bucket of nails, and I said, "Oh, he must have been a carpenter or worked with wood." And they go, "No," and I go, "Because I'm seeing a bucket of nails." They said, "There's a story about a bucket of nails."
There you go. Right. Our mind, how, remember those in school? They would have those little sentences they'd flash on the board, and it would be a whole sentence, but it would have words missing. But it was a sentence you knew, and your mind would see it. The teacher would ask you, what did the sentence say? You'd fill it all in. Yeah. And we do it, our minds will fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a medium, you can't fill in the blanks. I mean, sometimes you have to if you're not getting the information, but most of the time you just should relay the information. So exactly. That's for me. I've learned my sign language with them on the other side.
That's awesome. Yeah. Most of I'd say half of my readings over the past few years have been people leave saying probably, what the heck was that? But I give them homework and then they go talk to people. And then I get that phone call or email or they bring it to me and say, here's that exact type of box you described with all the exact materials in there that this person wanted brought out and acknowledged. So that's how things are changing for me. My clients are going with homework half the time. But at least they're finding stuff. And we're pretty much out of time, but I just wanted to get a quick answer. And I know that's it's hard to do that when we're talking about things that we're so passionate about and that mean a lot to other people. But my sister was commenting, hi sis, she feel like she had herself blocked her abilities when she was younger, wants to unblock them now. What's one piece of advice that you could give to her? In this, there's probably a lot of people out there that may listen to this tonight, tomorrow, whenever. What's one piece of advice you could give to somebody who wants to open up, wants to, maybe it's to connect, I don't know, maybe it's to connect to their own loved one, like you said in the beginning, in Kasha, or, to learn about themselves, whatever it might be. What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody? And Kasha, I'll have you start, and then we'll go Seth and then William.
I would say ask yourself this one question: what am I afraid of? Because blocking your abilities comes from some kind of fear. And if you spend time, instead of worrying about what do I need to do, I need to go take a class, I need to buy a book, I need to take a course, don't worry about that yet. Figure out what is blocking, what is the fear that's keeping you? Is it a fear of what your spouse may think, your friends, your parents, is it a fear that you'll fail? Is it a fear that it will make you different than your friends? There could be a million different things that's causing fear, but that's what keeps people, in my experience, from opening their abilities. Maybe it's a religious fear that can happen too, and it may be in the back of their mind too. That will be something bad will happen to me.
Right.
So I would say get that question figured out first, and then you can do all sorts of things to open them up. But
yeah, but that's the first step. That's your first step advice. William, what would you add to that?
I would add only that part of the way you can do that is practice, get a grounding and centering practice, practice some kind of an meditation, something that you can allow yourself to open and look at the fear, look at the psychic abilities. And it's not a push, it's not a struggle, it's an allowing.
Okay. Seth, what would you add to that? Give me the worst spot after everyone else has said really great things. Now you have to add on to that.
I know. Well, because I agree with both. And because I was going to say in meditation as well, and definitely fear usually holds people back. To add to that, I would, I had something and then it just flew out.
Well, that's okay. I'll give you. I'm going to talk for a second. If you think of it, jump right in.
Okay, thank
you. Yeah. So we're pretty much coming to the end. Dee Dee, thank you. Great 100th episode. Thanks to all the guests, and of course you, Pete. Well, thank you for the support in the show. And Todd, if you're in there, come back up. If you're not, I know it's late for you, but if you want to come back up, and as we sign out here.
I got it.
I'm still here, my friend.
Okay, go ahead, Seth.
Oh, watch their own thoughts, because they could be connecting. She could be connecting and not even realizing it due to doubts.
Okay.
So that would be another piece to what was already said.
Okay, and maybe try and write down things, right? See if you can find the pattern or write down.
And get validations. This is extremely important. So you know that you're connecting or getting information.
Exactly. Well, so we've come to the end of the show. I want to thank Kasha and Seth and William so much for taking the time to come on tonight for my 100th episode. You three have had a really positive impact on my journey and awakening, with mentorship and just kind of showing how things should be done in a good way. To do things, a professional way to do things. And so I look up to all of you and thank you so much for everything you've done for me, and again, everything you do out there in the world. And we got Mike Pierce saying, we'll see you for episode 200. Oh gosh. Well, we'll see. And then Jason commenting, thanks for everything, Pete. Again, congratulations. Thanks everyone. And Todd, I wanted you to come on just to give you a shout out again and say thanks for providing this platform for not only me, but a place where everyone else that's here right now can come and talk and share their gifts and their knowledge, and all the shows that are on the station. But thanks for giving us this platform, and it's certainly humbling to be here in this spot right now, and then all the guests in the first hour, and you guys, I'm humbled to be around, and just want to say thanks, Todd, and if anything you'd like to add.
You are more than welcome, my friend.
Well, thank you.
To have a station, to have such great people like this, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth every second.
Right on. It is worth every second. I found that it's like we've talked before, I got hooked. So, and William does his own show, Metaphysical Insights.
I mean, I finally get to meet the William Becker.
Oh, there you go,
Michael. I mean, I've heard a lot about you guys, and Kasha, I've heard a lot about you as well from Pete. All good stuff. I mean,
yeah.
amazing people. So thank you for
Indeed.
what you've done for Pete, because you've helped him blossom as he has as a host. I mean, I've watched him grow amazingly, and
wonderful.
But I still get nervous before every show. So
yeah. I do too, my friend.
I still get that pit in the stomach, like, oh God, I'm going to sound like an idiot all night. What do I say? But anyway, yeah. Thanks all around, you guys. And with that, we'll let Todd get to bed because it's getting pretty late over where he is.
Been a long day.
Been a long day. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Thanks again to each and every person who watches, listens, comments, and supports the show. Means a lot. If you want to follow and see who I've got coming up each week, just go to Facebook and look up Paranormal Pete Show. You'll find me there, or you can find me at my website, portgambleparanormal.com. And with that, and wishing you all a wonderful week. And positive week, and I look forward to having you on the show again in the near future. It's always a pleasure to talk to everybody that we have on the show. And with that, I say, everyone, make sure to take time to be present each day if you can. Maybe it's your moment right now to do that. Be here in the moment. Don't think about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Be here right now, or find a time each day to do that. Join me next Tuesday with Silver Moon Medicine for a really interesting discussion. And with that, everyone, have a great night. Thanks again for a wonderful first 100 episodes. And like Mike Beers said, we'll see you in episode 200. So everybody have a good night. Blessings to all, and take care.
Right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Congratulations, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank
you, everybody.
Nice.
Thank you.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.